Saturday, everybody. We're back. I am licensed marriage and family therapist, sports family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts. This is House Talk Pregame. My personal Santa Claus, Ronnie Ransome Jr., is out today representing the mental health field with gusto. He is at an expo in Virginia talking about mental health and sports and relationships. So excited for him to serve on that panel. Just an amazing opportunity for him. I told him, Ted, you know what? I said, as soon as you're licensed, bruh, the doors are going to open, the doors are going to fly off the hinges, and the opportunities that present themselves to you are going to be endless. And he said to me a couple of weeks ago, he was like, Doctor, it's just a little overwhelming. I said, blessings can be, they will overtake you that you won't have room enough to contain, right? And that's Absolutely. Where he is. You know, it's just so great to be back, folks. Had a great, relaxing Mother's Day. I did exactly what I wanted to do, which was absolutely nothing. I slept. I didn't get dressed. I even logged in for church. I didn't get up and go. Well, forgive me. I was just like, you know what? I need to catch up on some sleep. I need to eat some really good seafood. So my folks spoiled me rotten. I'm so happy. I hope that everybody had an amazing Mother's Day, or whomever you had an opportunity to spend that quality time with. Folks, you know this gentleman, Ted Wright III, is our guest co-host today. We have an amazing... Yes.
Anytime you ask me to show up, Dr. Pitts, I'm honored, and thank you for the opportunity. And so I always learn something new. So I'm excited. I got my pen and paper ready to take some copious notes and just engage us in this great conversation that we have lined up for everybody today.
Yeah, and what a great conversation it is. We have an amazing guest that's with us today. I'm going to formally introduce him and read his bio in just a moment. So today's show, folks, is athletic performance, getting the most. What is the key to top athletic performance? Drink well, eat better. To have your best performance, what you eat may need to improve. Eating well can also help you avoid dehydration, hitting the wall, bonking, general exercise fatigue, and more. And I really like that more part, right? Because that's where there's room for our discussion about academia and mental health and relationships and all of those other things. But when we talk about performance, we also talk about the importance of fueling your body right to get the most out of your efforts. Athletes also have to fuel their mind. Yes, indeed. Meaning that as athletes transition from high school to college, significant cognitive demands are placed upon them. They must learn more sophisticated concepts at deep depths. Their athletic knowledge base undergoes significant quantitative and qualitative changes. Their mental representations of the various concepts are challenged, refined, and further developed. Hey, Ted, this is episode 125 of HT, man.
What?
125, man.
Wow.
125.
I remember when you were like at 25.
Right.
Wow. You've had 125 episodes?
Yes. And that's just HT House Talk Pregame. That's not even when we were just House Talk. So I was telling Gary before the show, we've been doing this for 5 years. It's just been the past 3 seasons that we've been focusing on sports and mental health and relationships. You talk about God bless them. Y'all went to school, majored in communications, all that stuff. Hotel restaurant management with a concentration in culinary arts, organizational management, couple marriage and family therapy, educational leadership and management, and educational administration. I was not a communications major, but I love doing this work.
Yes, you were. You just didn't know.
I love it. Look, that's what I didn't get the memo.
You didn't get the memo. But it was coming for you, but you just didn't even know, and you were being developed.
You know, and what they say, you want to make God laugh, tell him you're playing. I did not plan to be doing this, but you said it. He knew that I would be. So here we go, folks. I want to bring it down a notch. Y'all know I'm always bouncing off the walls. I swear. People ask me, do I have ADHD? I want to bring it down a notch. We lost an athletic great. Jim Brown passed away. And he wasn't just an extraordinary NFL star, gentlemen. He was a Hollywood star. Cleveland Browns legend Jim Brown died on Friday at the age of 87. And while he was primarily known for being one of the greatest football players of all time, he also had an extensive Hollywood career as an actor. Brown was credited with being in at least 50 films during his acting career, with several leading roles. His prominent role was in the 1967 war classic, The Dirty Dozen, my birth year. Brown starred alongside an all-star cast that included Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, and Donald Sutherland. Brown played the role of Robert Jefferson, one of 12 convicts who were sent to World War II Germany to assassinate German officers meeting at a castle. Production for the movie cut into Brown's training camp for the 1966 season, a development that resulted in team owner Art Modell threatening to fine him $1,500 per week. Brown, who already decided to retire following the 1966 season, responded by simply retiring a year early. I love it. Brown had a chance to show off his athleticism in one of the movie's most famous scenes. Brown was also cast in several later films as a leading man, including The Split, Riot, and 100 Rifles, where he received top billing over Raquel Welch and Burt Reynolds. Along with his football career that saw him rush for 12,312 yards and 106 touchdowns, he is one of the biggest pop culture icons of all time. While much of his life was in the spotlight as a star, there was also a darker side that included an extensive history of domestic violence and sexual assault allegations. We're going to celebrate his victories, and we're going to honor him and give him the respect and the love that is due. The trailblazing work that he did in sports for African-American athletes. Our deepest condolences to the Brown family, and may he rest in peace. I also want to quickly acknowledge I've been sharing the past few weeks how, as God would have it, because it sure wasn't Lauren, I have been getting invitations to podcasts hand over fist, invited to speak and share about behavioral and mental health and relationships and sports and mental health, and really folks just tapping into my expertise as it relates to this work that I'm so deeply passionate about. So coming up this Monday, this one's a big deal. This one is a big deal because Monday is a triple blessing day. It is my husband's 54th birthday. Happy early birthday, baby. I love you.
And what else is it? And what else?
It's our anniversary.
Come on, girl. I remember that. I remember that video.
Yes.
Oh.
It's our wedding anniversary because I tell folks, what better gift to give a man for his birthday than a wife? And I clown him all the time. I say, you wanted a wife? You got a wife. So happy early birthday, baby. Happy anniversary. He is over the road, dotting I's and crossing T's and doing what he needs to do to provide for our family, because Ted and Gary, we are submitting to the mission. We are submitting to the mission, and we are doing this thing together. And he's not going to be here physically to celebrate his birthday and anniversary, but we're going to make up for it when he gets home. We're gonna make up for it when he gets home. And we're gonna have a blast. But also on Monday, I have been, this one is just such a tremendous honor. I mean, they all are, but this is a little different because this is an international podcast that is run by an organization in Australia that invited me to come on, and it is the ILMS podcast, and they are an organization in Australia that is all about families. It's the KPI Institute. They are doing what they call family science labs, and they have invited me on to talk about codependency in family relationships and what that looks like, how to address it, how to survive it, how to avoid it. And so really, really, really excited about that. Going to have an opportunity to spend 2 hours Monday night, our time, morning, Melbourne, Australia time on Monday. So continuing to get that international presence, just such a tremendous honor. And then on Wednesday, there is a sports psychology and mental fitness organization out of the Philadelphia area. That podcast is called the Head Game Podcast. And that one is, they're all, like I said, it's all an honor to be on all of them, but their entire team, gentlemen, is sports psychologists. So, and I was humbled and I'm like, you want to talk to me? Because my brain is saying, y'all went to school way longer than me. Right? Mm-hmm. But they've been listening and they've been following the work that Ronnie and I are doing. And they said, no, Dr. Pitts, we want to hear from you. We want you to contribute. So such a tremendous honor. So those are the two that I have coming up this week, and just super duper duper honored and excited. And I'm going to do my level best to represent to the best of my ability. So now with all that formality stuff out the way.
Now, well, let me tell you something. You just shared with us 125 shows. So let me share with you what I see. I see consistency, dedication, and passion to what you're doing. Not looking for the ILMS podcast, not looking for the head game, the call. That wasn't your intention. Your heart was to serve the people with the information and get good information, people into your podcast that was sharing information to help people. And when you only focus on the real, because God judges the intent of your heart. See, your intent wasn't to blow up. Your intent was to do the work. And because of the work comes the opportunity where he expands your territory, your mission. And the great thing that they told you, it was like, why me? Me? They were like,
right.
We've been watching you.
That's all right, Lauren Pitts bounce.
No, they watched some of them 125 shows.
Yeah.
And they saw the consistency that you were producing. And this woman means what she's saying, and she's passionate. That's why we need her on our platform. And so kudos to you and the reason that you're doing it, and continue to allow God to elevate you. I am just so excited for you, Lauren Pitts Bounds. And happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. So without further ado, listen, when you talk about 125 episodes, I tell you, I have met some of the most extraordinary human beings that anybody could ever meet that have come on this show, and today is no exception. So today, folks, we have writer, photographer, videographer, communications, and media guru extraordinaire from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Mr. Gary C. Clement. Gary got his start in entertainment after attending Full Sail Center for the Recording Arts in Orlando, Florida. But it was after attending Jack the Rapper Family Affair that he really blossomed as a photographer. It would be a few years later, after working in television for ABC and Fox Television, that he began writing. His venture was the Clementine Review, published locally and nationally in publications like Yo and Fresh Magazine, which helped Clement to launch his career as a writer. Merging his talents, he traveled the country on junkets for Disney, 20th Century Fox, and MGM Studios. He's also conducted interviews with celebrities such as Whoopi Goldberg, Angela Bassett, Barry Gordy, professional athletes, and many more. As a photographer, he's photographed celebrities, including professional athletes and actors such as Danny Glover, Chris Tucker, artists such as Beyonce and Janet Jackson, and many others. He's also covered many award shows and special celebrity events. His syndicated column has reached millions over the years, and now he's the proud owner of G2 Network Media and Television, where he's updated the Clementine Review to Gotcha Covered Online, which caters to the same audience, but with a broader view. Gary is also extremely passionate about education. And when we connected a couple of months ago, when I was on his podcast, one of the things that we talked about was the fact that oftentimes in sports, the scholarly part of scholar athlete is forgotten. So I really wanted Gary to be able to contribute to this conversation today for two reasons. One, first and foremost, because he's so freaking passionate about education, but because he has run in that athletic circle, like he's interacted with these folks at an elite level in social settings, in recreational settings, in just all types of ways that many of us haven't. So he has a very unique perspective as it relates to performance and relationships and social engagement amongst elite athletes. Gary Clement, welcome,
Hello.
sir. It is an honor and a privilege to be in your presence.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate you having me here on your show today. And again, congratulations on your upcoming anniversary, as well as your success with your show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's jump into this conversation, shall we, gentlemen? So when we think about sports, and Ted, I know you definitely, you and your Bowie State.
Go Bowie. You know, hey man, you know we just had a gentleman that was close to be the first person from Bowie State University's football program to get drafted.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, but right after that, he signed a free agent contract with the Commanders. So I'm still excited about Bowie State's program.
We shouted him out. Ronnie shouted it. Look, he gritting his teeth. Ronnie gritting his teeth. He did show him love, and we highlighted all of the athletes from the HBCUs that were either drafted or were signed as free agents, because it was just phenomenal. Just such a phenomenal accomplishment for all of them. And certainly we wish each and every one of them just an extraordinarily successful career, represent our HBCU families with great pride and humility, and strike that balance, because we need that. So when we think about sports performance, there's four major dimensions. There's skill, strength, endurance, and even recovery when there's injury. What we know to be true, and what research, I'm a research nut, what research has shown us is that high performance in any sport requires a characteristic blend of these dimensions, although individual sports differ widely in that balance. So when we think about these levels, let's have some conversation around what that looks like at each level as it relates to overall performance, academia, and I'm going to interject the mental health piece, right? So that first level is the healthy beginner. Ted, how old were you when you started playing sports?
Probably about 7 or 8.
Share with us how and why and what it was like for you. And then, Gary, if you would, because we talk about formative years, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. How are we striking that balance in that healthy beginner stage of your athletic career as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old?
Well, for me, it started with television on Saturdays. I saw we only had a few channels back then, so I'm dating myself. And one of those channels always played Notre Dame. And I used to hear the Fighting Irish song every Saturday. And I saw those guys playing football. And then watching the Washington Redskins at the time, saying, I want to play in the NFL. So I watched these guys, what they did on Sunday. And then me and my friends in the neighborhood, we played street ball in between cars, and we tried to mimic everything we saw. Now, the only other thing that I knew as far as like physically to do was you had to work out. I mean, you have to run. I knew the basic stuff. You got to get in shape. But the food piece, was. I just ate without, I didn't have any choice in that. I couldn't go in the house and tell my
Pizza and
grandma,
burgers and hot dogs.
listen, I need to have, gluten-free food, even though I didn't know what that was back then. But
Yeah.
the whole point was I had to eat what was given and just went out. And the only thing I knew was just the physical piece of working out, running, lifting weights, trying to get stronger, and then just mimicking what I saw other people doing. And so I just found a passion for the game, continued to play every year, and continue to have those aspirations to try to get to the next level. And as we've had conversations with Ronnie, and he experienced it too, the higher you go up, the smaller the pool is for those people that are getting an opportunity at the next level. And if you have to come to some realization that you have to say to yourself, maybe I am not good enough, because it's showing me in my face that I've tried, I've given everything that I had, I've eaten the right stuff, I did all of that stuff, but I still wasn't selected. And I'm not saying give up, but at some point you have to look at the numbers and then realize that it may not be something for you. But here's what I do take away from that. It doesn't mean that you have to give up the sport. So from a mental aspect, a lot of people look at not being able to play as a failure, and I can have no connection to the sport anymore. But you can still coach, you can do what you're doing. You never played, Dr. Pitts, but you can help them mentally to understand what's going on in their world and how you see it from your perspective. So that's kind of how I got from 7 to college and playing at Bowie State. But the whole goal was to try to get to the NFL. And then when the realization of that not happening, you have to just kind of switch gears and move on.
Yeah. Okay. So Gary, when you think about the education of our children and how, and I talk about this, with clients that I have that are parents, and you would be amazed, or maybe not, but I think you would be amazed at the number of parents whose mental health issues are exacerbated by their children's involvement in sports, because the things that are going on in the psyche tell them that if my child strikes out, I'm a bad parent. If my child misses X number of free throws, I'm a bad parent. If my child fumbles the football, I'm a bad parent. And it is mind-blowing to hear the pressure that is put on these kids to perform athletically, and they give them passes academically. Can you sort of share your perspective on that?
That's interesting. I like I said, early on, grew up on a farm, and I have 3 brothers. I'm the oldest. And so it's like growing up on a farm, of course, back years ago, we didn't have a lot of money, and so you had to go outside and basically find something to do, and one of those things was always, we would have not really softball, but baseball. We would play basketball. We would, the big thing actually was, in which I didn't really like, but we pulled tobacco. That was one of the things and stuff that kind of really got you in shape to basically be able to go and go to the woods and stuff and cut that wood for wintertime, as well as go to the garden, a bunch of bending over and stuff there to kind of get, so it was interesting, because like I said, we kind of played it somewhat into basically being able to take that from the farm into, like you said, I guess, sporting activities or whatnot, and I guess to look back at that and stuff now, a lot of kids and stuff don't have anybody that's coaching them like that, or helping them to like accept hard work and be able to appreciate it and turn it into something good, something else that's going to be beneficial and stuff to life.
Dr. Pitts, I wanted just to add, as far as the education piece, and I know Gary can understand this, coming up as a a country boy down in North Carolina. Just so you know, my grandparents brought the South to Washington, D.C., so I understand what you're talking about being in a garden, in a field, and how that hard work can kind of, that's some real work, man, that puts you in a better place. My grandfather used to tell me, he said, son, hard work never killed a man, but the lack of it did. And
Ooh,
I ain't never get that at
yes.
first, but I was like, that makes sense. So working in the garden,
Yeah.
all that stuff keeps you healthy. But here's the other
Yeah.
thing, Dr. Pitts, I failed to share. My mother
Hmm.
was a stickler for education, so
Yeah.
she used
Yeah.
it as leverage for me to play
Hmm.
something that I love. So you
Hmm.
couldn't be on the football team, you couldn't play basketball, you couldn't go outside if your
Hmm.
grades weren't at a certain level. And she didn't just say passing. You
Yeah.
are an A-B person. You're going to put in the
Yeah.
same dedication to this because if
Hmm.
something happens to you and you don't make it there, you
Yeah.
have to have a foundation that you can build on to go in a different direction. And it required
That's right.
education, and she pushed that. So
Yeah.
even though I ain't like it, and I missed some practices and I missed some things because I didn't
Hmm.
do the right thing, her
Hmm.
making me dedicated to that piece helped make me a better reader,
Hmm.
writer, speaker, all those things that were important in my life
Hmm.
today as a result of
Hmm.
those things that she pushed and made sure that I did as a child.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's and you know, I'm from Southern New Jersey. I tell people where I'm from in New Jersey is the reason why New Jersey is called the what? Garden State. And I grew up on a farm too. So the cows, chickens, pigs, you know, horses, taken, you know, animal rights folks don't send me hate mail, but animals to the butcher and, you know, eggs being had and all of these things. And it is work. And one of the things that I love and I, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, I would not change being born into the Pitts family for anything. We Education was non-negotiable. It was non-negotiable. And what's so interesting is when I think about it, my mom was one of 11, and all six of her well, five of her six brothers played sports. The other one preached his trial sermon at the age of 12. So we know that, you know, and when he passed, he was funeralized as a bishop because he passed before he had an opportunity to be installed as bishop. But the other five all played sports: football, basketball, baseball. Um, you know, they rocked out in sports. But that's those grades. They had to have the grades. The two oldest ones dropped out of school, but that was, you know, that was part of the thing because of that generation, right? The two oldest ones dropped out of school to get jobs to help to support the family. But all the rest of them, oh, you going to school, you're graduating and you're getting good grades. And if you don't get these grades, you're not playing that sport. And it was not open for discussion. For us as the next generation, and you talk about that AB, like my parents acted like bees were like the devil or something. It's like, wait, what do you mean? It was just not permitted. And like I said, you know, my involvement in sports didn't go beyond cheerleading, but I didn't get straight A's. I couldn't cheer. It's like, yeah,
Straight
like no joke.
A's.
Straight A's.
Wow.
Straight A's were required of me. They were
Wow.
required of me. And people wonder, like, I've been a straight A student my whole life, literally. And it was like when I was in my doctoral program, my GPA dropped from a 4.0 to a 3.89. I almost had a nerve breakdown. Because I was like, wait, oh, wait, what is going on? And my dissertation chair was like, Lauren, you're going to be Dr. Pitts. Nobody's going to care. I was like, but you don't understand. My parents didn't care. I know I'm grown and I've been, but I say all that to say this is that one of the things that I see from a clinical perspective is that yes, there are some athletes, particularly our younger athletes, where their parents are sticklers for getting good grades. But then there are parents who literally navigate parenting and sports involvement from the mindset that, oh, that those grades don't matter. They don't see K-8 as mattering to whether or not the child gets an athletic scholarship and goes to college. And what I say to them is, you're mistaken. Well, Dr. Pitts, how can you say, what do you mean? Okay, because discipline is learned. How about that? And if a child is not taught to be academically disciplined like they're taught to be athletically disciplined, then by the time they get to high school, they're going to struggle academically because the demands in high school, as well as the athletic demands in high school, are kicked up a notch from when you're playing midget football or right they see the kid as a ticket out of their situation. Ronnie talks about that all the time, right? The kid is the superhero of the family. And what's so unfortunate about that is that all this pressure is on this kid to perform athletically, but then academically they're not thriving. When I was teaching at the high school level, one of the classes that I taught was the alternative English class. And what that alternative English class was students who didn't have the academic ability to pass the New Jersey standardized state test, the PARC. And so they were taking these alternative English classes. What was so disheartening about that is some of these students, both male and female, who were also scholar athletes in 11th and 12th grade, gentlemen, were reading on 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade level, but they were playing them sports. So if you're getting ready to graduate high school, performing at the elementary level in your reading comprehension, how are you going to be successful in college?
You're
How?
expecting the same thing and the same courtesies and passes that you were getting in high school and all along the way. And because people still see you as a ticket that they can say, I touched this person before they got to their place of fame. Now, here's what I don't understand, Dr. Pitts. I'm just gonna throw this out. What do these people who do these things, the parents who, what do they feel, what do they get out of it? What did the AAU coach get out of saying, yeah, Kevin Durant was on my team as an AAU guy and I helped produce him? What do you get on the back end? What's your claim to fame? And so I don't understand sometimes how all of that kind of ties in. I know, Gary, you probably know a lot of folks that were on the AAU circuit and all that stuff. And what's the motivation for the coaches? You've been behind the scenes. I'm sorry, Doctor, because I just swing this a different way.
Good.
But I want to know about this because this has been in my brain.
He does have some behind the scene knowledge. Not sure if he want to tell us.
Talk to us, Gary. What's the motivation of these coaches and these people?
Well, I think personally, like I said, it seems like, the coaches and stuff I guess they kind of sort of feel as if they have a personal stake in making sure that particular player becomes, how could you say it, Magic Johnson or one of the top quarterbacks and stuff in the NFL. Because the fact is like when they get to that position, then they are looking for so-and-so to be able to, if nothing but just by name recognition, be able to help them get to another level or whatnot in their life or in their career or something. So it's like you said, so it's almost like they are, trying to work with them one-on-one because they want to have that, that big name and stuff at some point and people to know them where they can make money, like adversely, I guess you could say, off of that particular person. That's what I see.
So
it's almost like a meal ticket for them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So self-motivation for self-improvement. So it has no real, direction toward the individual you say you're trying to help. It still has a selfish motive to it.
I think it's, I think is, it's motivated by the fact that they feel as if they're going to get monetary or gifts or be able to gain access to other people on the team. It's just like when, a lot of our young women or whatnot, they kind of sort of do the same thing. They are looking for a meal ticket to the top, and then they get there and stuff, and they figure out how to strategize to do something else. It's like a game,
Wow. A game
What's
within
the mental
game.
piece of that, Dr. Pitts? How does why do people think like that? And my question is it a reality? Does it really happen? Is their goal at the end of the rainbow for real? Do these people actually get paid?
Right.
Do they get the access that they hope they're going to get? Or do they get mad at that person at the end and try to guilt them into
Mhm.
saying, remember when I was picking you up and you didn't have a ride to the gym when you were
Mhm.
6? Then a person 21 and you trying to take them back to 6-year-old like they owe you
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
So
Right.
where's
I
the
think it
mental
goes
piece of
both
that?
ways. I think there are definitely, like I'll give a prime example. So my hometown high school, Salem High School in Salem, New Jersey, and running back Jonathan Taylor came out of Salem, New Jersey as a running back for the Indianapolis Colts doing the darn thing. And his football coach there was Montre Wright. Montre is friends with my son and was he was when I was running an organization called Teens on Track for Success. Montre was a part of the students that I took with me, around the country for different college visits and what have you. Montre is an extraordinary human being, right? He is a human being that prides himself on doing what's in the best interest of the athlete. When I think about a story that one of the local news channels did on JT, and I was just elated to hear Montre's part of the interview because he was still the same humble, down the earth, just amazing human being that his mother, who passed away a couple of years ago, raised him to be. He's that guy that's not looking for anything. His Montre's heart is filled, and it's like he finds so much joy in doing his job, in being a a positive coach and influence that nurtured JT's skills, right? He's not looking for anything. Will JT bless him? Probably will, because JT's an amazing human being, right? So maybe he went to a game. I don't know. I haven't talked to Montre in quite some time. But then you have those individuals that are, what's in it for me? Oh, I'm going to coach this kid up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the other. And I'm not saying this to be derogatory or anything like that, because I don't know the backside of the story. I know that, Hollywood tends to embellish, but I think an example of that is in the movie The Blind Side with Michael Orr. And they showed how Coach Cotton went to the table. They showed how Coach Cotton went to the table before the admissions board to get Michael Orr into that school, and how when the NCAA was investigating whether or not there had been any illegal activity in recruiting him and him going to Ole Miss, one of the things that came up was the investigator asked Michael Orr in the movie, were you aware that Coach Cotton accepted a coaching position with Ole Miss when you signed? He didn't know, right? So it happens. It definitely happens. And to answer your question regarding the mental health piece, one of the things that I've found in doing this work is that, one, people live vicariously through their children. Ronnie talks about that all the time. The other part of that is people come into parenting and coaching with their own mental health issues and baggage. Some at the lower level of the mental health, diagnoses, and others that are what Ronnie and I say and just deep into the DSM, right? Our diagnostic and stigma, like back there on page 500. Oh, that's where the heavy hitters are, right?
Mhm.
But the problem with that is that there's a tremendous amount of projection and transference onto the athlete. You know, take so many of our athletes that are born into poverty. They didn't ask to be born into poverty. They didn't ask to be one of 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids. They didn't ask to live in project housing in deplorable conditions. They didn't ask for any of that. But yet their heart's desire, for many of them who wouldn't want to be out of those situations, is to be the savior for their family. But then there's others that put pressure on these kids. And so some of them have enough sense to instill in the child the importance of their grades being a priority because you're not going to play sports forever. There's others who don't. And I, honest to goodness, gentlemen, I think those are the athletes that end up broke. I think they're the athletes that end up broke because behind the scenes, it was all about get us out of here, get us out of here, get us out of here. It was all about taking care of everything and everybody. And there was no emphasis on expanding the mind. And as a result, the athlete ends up broke, depressed, suicidal, drug addicted, with fractured life and relationships. And it doesn't have to be that way. So when we take all of that into consideration and we go to that next level, we'll call that level 2 with the intermediate athlete. And just for illustration purposes, I'm going to put that at the level of the athlete that goes to college but doesn't get the full athletic scholarship. He's not a Ronnie Ransome. He's not a he's not a Jonathan Taylor. He's not an Odell Beckham Jr. He's not a Tom Brady. You know, he's a decent athlete.
5-star player. He's not that guy.
Yeah, not that guy.
He or she.
But right, not that guy or girl. But they go and they do a decent job. They're an average student. They're an average athlete. And what does that look like? Mm-hmm. How does that, where do they end up? It reminds me of Love and Basketball when the girls were in the locker room and they were not in the locker room, the two girls, Sanaa Lathan and the other girl who were playing overseas had met for dinner after the championship. And she was talking about two of the other athletes, that one was back home working at a shoe store and the other one was doing, something. How is that possible? Gary, why are you so passionate about education?
Well, when I was growing up, my mom and my uncle, basically, like I said, again, like I said, we were part of a farming community or whatnot. We had the family land and all that. And so I, like I said, grew up with my mother, my aunt, my uncle, all in the same house. They were all sisters and brothers. And when it came to school and education, like I said, I guess you could kind of say, like, I felt like I was kind of slow. I was kind of shy and really didn't, exert myself and stuff out in public like most people did. And so therefore my mother and my uncle basically tag teamed or whatnot to basically make sure that I knew my reading, make sure I knew my mathematics and, those things. And then too, when you got out in the community or whatnot, you had cousins, you had other family and other people in the community. It was, like I said, it was all like a big family, because if you were doing something that you were not supposed to be doing or whatnot, they all basically, they would call back to my mom and tell us, he's doing such and such or whatever. And, and you would get in trouble by everybody. And like I said, it was like I said, everybody would kind of sort of like take care of everybody. And so as you got older, even in the school systems and stuff, the teachers or whatnot were, we could actually get like corporal punishment or discipline and stuff at school with a belt and all this kind of stuff, and so I guess in today's, in today's world, you can't do that. That's the first thing. And then the spirituality, spiritual wise or church or whatnot, we growing up on the farm and all that kind of stuff, we went to church all the time. And so it was a lot of the same people over and over, and so, the big thing and stuff was to educate your child and stuff at home so that when they get out in public, number one, they know how to act. They know the different things and stuff to do, how to conduct themselves and whatnot around other people. And, you really didn't feel a sense of somebody, how could you say it, trying to take advantage of you in various, stages of your life for money or for anything else. Because you kind of, you kind of knew everybody, but then, this sense of greed and stuff, this day and time, it's a whole different world, And so my thing is, like I say, so with the education piece, because of what the way I grew up or whatnot, and how I was raised or whatnot, I said, well, you look at the different situations and stuff on television and look at different people's lives and stuff. Some people go far, some people don't go so far. But when you got certain things and stuff in you, you don't forget it. You don't go to jail. You don't go get hooked and stuff on drugs, or you don't get hooked and stuff on alcohol, all these things and stuff. It doesn't matter if you're doing sports or if you're doing music or whatever, but because, like I said, certain aspects of life, like I said, being with spirituality, having a close-knit family that really like cared about you and really showed you those different things and stuff in order to achieve and go further in life. Like I said, you held on to a lot of that stuff. And like I said, it was a good thing or whatnot to get older and basically be able to show other people how to do stuff without having to, deal with, bad stuff from the past. Thank God I didn't grow up in a household and stuff where my mom was a alcoholic or, or a prostitute or any of that kind of stuff. Not to judge anyone, but,
Yeah.
And so those things, like I said, actually it kind of sort of like prepared me or whatnot for being able to get into, like, even with my book or whatnot, being able to pull together something like that, because I had a pretty good upbringing or whatnot, where everybody appreciated, respected you or whatnot, and you could do those things. They made you feel like you could do those things, So if I answered your question at all.
You did. Well, you and I know Ted wants to jump in here, but what I love about what you said, because oftentimes we make the assumption of thinking that when we talk about academia, when we talk about scholarly, that it's just classroom knowledge. But life across all domains is a learning experience. And you said some buzzwords that just like made my forehead light up. When you talk about respect, when you talk about conduct out in the community, something that I'm really, really passionate about, having taught English, is appropriate language. How do you communicate verbally? It aggravates me to no end when I see a microphone shoved in an athlete's face, particularly an athlete of color, and they cannot speak. It drives me nuts. And what it tells me is, where was the emphasis on classroom and home training as it relates to speaking? I use more slang now than I ever have in my entire life, because growing up, it wasn't permitted in our home. Slang would get your lips popped. You talk about corporal punishment. It just wasn't tolerated. And even now, I have to be very, very careful in what I say when I'm speaking to my parents, because they have zero tolerance for slang. They don't want to hear it. It's not accepted. And oh, by the way, like my mom has literally said, excuse me, do we pay a bunch of money for you to be a doctor? Do we pay a bunch of money for you to be a doctor? I'm like, I put myself in my doctoral program. What you talking about? But the bottom line is, it's not going to be tolerated. There is an expectation of excellence and greatness when it comes to knowledge, whether it's classroom knowledge or social knowledge, home training, dining etiquette, social graces. That seems to be a thing of the past today. So yes, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of athletes that are very well spoken, that are extremely articulate, that hold themselves very, very well in the public eye. And then there are others, phenomenal athletes, but I find myself questioning what type of student they were. Were they an intermediate student? Because the way that they speak begs the question, were they paying attention in class? Ted?
Well, Dr. Pitts, I'm a person I always like to give grace. So we can, and I know you're not saying this, but we have to, it's not their fault that people passed them on. People gave them a pass, because as a child, I would have wanted the easy way out too. So
Mhm.
we all would have accepted the path if we weren't put on a
Mhm.
path of, like you said, expectation of
Mhm.
excellence. So if that wasn't
Mhm.
in their household, I get it.
Right.
But now you're in the league. Now you have resources where you can pay someone to help
Yes.
you with
Yes.
your public presence. They can help
That
you. You
part
ain't got
right
to be
there.
able to speak like Martin Luther King, but give you a couple of words to say, hey, when they pull you up for the
Right.
interview that's unexpected, here are a couple of pitfalls to stay away from. Don't answer
Yeah.
these type of questions. Always look in
Right.
the camera. You don't have to say all these big words. Just say concise words in a sentence
Right.
that can kind of all line up and kind of have some continuity to it. So you
Right.
ain't got to be great. You have to at least start. And
Yeah.
so it takes me back to a statement, Dr. Pitts, that says talent can get you there, but it's your character that keeps you
Yes.
there. So once
Yes.
you can get up there and all that, but you will get exposed, like you said, when they put the mic in front of you.
Yeah.
You may be the greatest 3-point shooter, the greatest dribbler, and
Mm-hmm.
all that, but in that moment, you're going to
Yes.
be diminished because, to a degree, publicly,
Yes.
based on that. And so,
Yeah.
why not build the excellence in your public persona as well as on the
Yeah.
court?
Right.
Right.
And
Just
I
something for their consideration.
right. No, I love that because what it says is, and I want to say this gently. We're not suggesting for a moment that someone dance to the beat of another human being's drum. We're not suggesting for a moment that someone conduct themselves in a manner that is inauthentic. But what I say to my clients, what I say to my family members, to my friends, and what have you, is that you have to be efficient at being able to hold your own in the boardroom or on the block. You have to be a chameleon because so oftentimes what happens, people are watching. These athletes, even at the collegiate, even at the high school level, truth be told, smaller children are looking up to these athletes as an example of how to behave, how to speak, how to dress, how to carry themselves. These younger children that are at the level beneath whatever level the athlete is at want to be like Mike. They want to be like JT. They want to be like Aaron Rodgers. They want to be like Joe Burrow. They want to be like DeMar Hamlin. They want to be
And don't
like
leave
these.
Tom Brady out. You
I
described
mean,
us.
you and this
You
Tom
start naming
Brady.
people. You didn't throw him in there now. Come on now.
They want to be like Tom, Dad. They want to be like Tom. And what ends up happening is at least it appears that the appropriate nurturance for the scholarly part of their trajectory has not been nurtured properly. And that's concerning to me. It's deeply concerning because I feel like when you get to those next levels, the when you get to the advanced athlete level, when you get to the elite level, there the expectations of you are greater in behavior, in performance, in attitude, in character, and it requires long-term dedication to who you are holistically. You're not just an athlete. You're a public figure. You're a father. You're a son. You're a mother. You're a daughter. You're a sister. You're a cousin. You're a wife. You're all of these things. So literally the spotlight is on you. How are you showing up? That was the mental health tip that I forgot to incorporate. So I'm going to incorporate it now. This might seem really, really strange, but I swear it ties into this because athletes are human beings, right? We know that. They're human beings. They're living, breathing beings that have relationships and have problems and have perceived successes and failures and all of these things. And what I have been saying to my clients over the past couple of weeks is this, gentlemen. Take your athletic performance out of the equation. Take your relationships out of the equation and look in the mirror. Ask yourself if how you are showing up in your sport, in your relationships, in every area of your life is truly representative of who you are authentically at your core. It's like this. Who are you? Who do people say you are? And who do you pretend to be? Are all of those answers in alignment? Because if they're not, what that tells me clinically is that you are navigating life inauthentically. Yes, you're a phenomenal athlete, but you're inauthentic. Those three things need to line up. And here's what it looks like. So we know domestic violence is a thing in sports, right? Mm-hmm. Is who we're seeing publicly who you really are. And when people can look in the mirror and answer those questions honestly, answer those questions vulnerably and transparently for themselves, then maybe they're able to show up more authentically. Then maybe they actually might find themselves excelling in their athletic performance in ways perhaps that they hadn't even realized that they could, because they're not navigating life pretending to have it all together. If you are not showing up in your performance, in your relationships, and in every area of your life in a way that is representative of who you truly are, how you truly want to be seen, and how you truly want to navigate your life, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing those of us that are looking up to you a disservice.
Wow.
That part right there.
That's hard. Because Dr. Pitt, sometimes we have to, you know, those people in those spaces, we have to remember that they're young adults, many of them. And we were 21, 22, 23. We just didn't have the bank accounts that they have. We didn't have the same type of temptations and all these things being pushed at us from all angles, especially today with social media and all this stuff. When some of these people say, when can I breathe? Right. And just be me. I don't want to be, I don't want to sign another autograph. And I know you don't know you're the 150th person to ask me today. Right. But when I say no, I just want a moment. And now now I get an Instagram thing and everybody hating on me because I didn't sign this little boy's autograph and you didn't blew me up on social media. So we have to think about also, how do you practically walk that out? And I know we don't have time, but that's another show. Possibly. How does an athlete walk that out practically? A elite athlete with the exposure and everything. And how does that work out for them mentally? Right. Well, that was the part that I was going to add, because we're literally, time goes by so fast, goodness gracious. Sometimes I'm tempted to take the show back to 90 minutes. But the answer to that is this. That last tidbit of what you said is why it's so important to strike that balance, because living life inauthentically can result in mental health issues. So then you have to ask yourself, is denying who you really are for the sake of public persona and notoriety worth your mental health? It's like requiring people to do this cost benefit analysis, right? And weighing it. Yeah, you got your family out of the projects, and yeah, you've got a fat bank account right now, but you're depressed, anxious, and suicidal. That's the hard part. And that's why this work that we do is so important. There's a couple of key things I want to touch on real quick, and then I want to pass back to Gary to allow him to share with our listeners how they can follow him and get to know him better and support the amazing work and stuff that he's doing. There was so much more that we wanted to, there just wasn't enough time to cover it all. One of the things that I asked Ronnie to contribute was, I asked him, based on his athletic journey, what tips would he give young athletes concerning balancing their ability and their athletic performance? And he said these three things. He said, set realistic goals for the season and off season.
Learn to be coachable and learn when a coach is critiquing your actions and behaviors and you as a person. Do a little extra each day, whether after a lift or practice in your free time, and watch how those extra efforts turn into huge payoffs when you need it the most. To that, I want to add that what we know to be true is that mental health has the ability to adversely affect athletic performance. If an athlete, to your point, Ted, when we talk about this public persona versus, the athlete really wanting to breathe and not wanting to sign another autograph or get another picture taken, right? What we know to be true in this work is that athletes who aren't interested in their sport or in, like, if they lose their passion, if they just get to a point where they're just tired, right? They don't perform well because they're not fully engaged. They're not fully engaged in practices. They're not fully engaged in health behaviors. They're not fully engaged in competition. A lot of times that morphs into depression. And when depression kicks in, now we're opening the door for fatigue, loss of energy, changes in sleep patterns, and moving and talking slowly. It's this vicious cycle. And that's why it's like one of the pillars of my work as a clinician is this holistic perspective to wellness, your overall health and well-being, your love and relationships, your career, i.e. your athletic involvement, your time. How are you spending your time and with whom you're spending your time? And then your financial piece. So when you look at each of those domains of our lives within the context of athletic performance, in my opinion, it's very easy to see how any type of disruption in those domains of an athlete's life can adversely affect their performance, and sometimes greatly. And we see it, right? We see it in the media. We hear about it in the media, whether it's drinking and driving, racing, murder, suicide, gun. But that, like, really, it's manifesting itself in a number of maladaptive ways that are compromising the athletic performance. But more importantly, gentlemen, it's compromising the overall well-being of the athlete. That's why we do this work. That's why we do this work, because mental health is the crucial factor in performance. And if people don't connect the dots between academia, between performance, and between mental health, we're going to continue to see an escalation in mental health issues among our athletic performers. We're going to see crime. We're going to see domestic violence. We're going to see a litany of issues that don't have to be part of their story, but they are. So look, folks, we're out of time, but Gary, please, before we wrap up, share with our listeners how they can connect with you or follow you or tune into. You've got a book. Tell us.
Okay. All right, great. So first of all, here's my book. It's the Gary Clement Radio Show, Volume 1, When Strong Afro-American Men and Women Stand Up. And basically, it focuses on literacy. It focuses on literacy and being able to bring our community together so that we can teach our young people in regards to what to do, how to do, how important it is to go and keep, being interested in stuff in education and taking yourself as far as you can go in life. Yeah. It was a good thing to do this. I had an opportunity actually to do a couple of interviews or whatnot with Professor Matthew Knowles, who so happens to be the father of Beyonce. And he basically signed on as the first person actually, with me for this to basically be a part of this. And, like I said, it was interesting. He told me about his background as well as his life or whatnot, coming out of Alabama, and the story about his mother and father and how everything came together, and why he basically, loved to beyond just the entertainment thing, but he wanted to get into, being a college professor. And so that's what he does and stuff till this day. He basically travels the country and stuff, doing speaking engagements or whatnot, as well as, talk to a lot of young people and different ones, and then teaches classes and stuff in regards to, everything he's done in his career, life and career. And so it's a good read. Beyond this, what I went on to do was create the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. And with that, I'm, able to talk with people such as Dr. Pitts here in regards to what she's doing and what she's done. And I think thus far we're fairly new, but like we're up to, I think, episode number 32 or 33. And that's, like I said, that's growing. And if people want to reach us, they can simply send an email or whatnot to gccpresents@yahoo.com. Like I said, so I'm open to getting, new information, meeting new people. I'm actually introducing a couple of new podcasts or whatnot as well. One is called Hard News, hosted by Gary Clement, where we basically, are going into the fabric of our community and interviewing, people like the sheriff's department, as well as the school system administrators and whatnot, and getting them to talk about the importance and stuff of gun violence and stuff in our communities, and basically being able to provide solutions and whatnot there. Mm-hmm. That's like the one podcast. And I have this other thing that I've actually partnered with the church that my wife goes to called Let's Pray for the Culture or whatnot. And we're allowing different members and stuff of the church to basically, speak out about things that concern them or whatnot that's happening to our culture or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And letting them speak or whatnot, with that. And so that's the second one. And then recently I'm looking at something, on voting or whatnot, the importance or whatnot of voting for our young people as well as our older people, because a lot of us, have ideas and they, want to do this, want to do that or whatnot. And, but they don't vote. They're not supportive or whatnot of what voting means or whatnot. Back in the 1960s, our parents, a lot of them, that's something that they were really big in that. They were really a part of that because, like I said, they had to, they were, restricted to being able to go to lunch counters and sit and do different things or whatnot that white people had the privilege to do, but they couldn't do it. So that's another podcast I'm kind of sort of like working on and stuff now to try to bring to fruition. Okay. And so I just got a couple of different things going on.
You're doing some things. I love it.
Man, you gotta bring him back, Lauren. I'm just going to put my vote in right now because it was a whole lot of stuff in the pre-room when we were in the green room waiting. That he shared with us that I wanted to hear about, and we kept running our mouth and we didn't get Gary enough time to talk.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Gary, we got to hear this story later, man. And I know Ronnie gonna probably be sitting up here sucking it all in, but I hope I'm invited to that call that day or this particular day.
Yeah, man. We definitely have to have you back because and it's my fault. It's like there's just trying to pack too much into an hour, just can't get it all in. But yeah, because you definitely shared with us in the green room some powerful stories about your connection with professional athletes, and wanted to share some pictures and all of that stuff with us. And so we definitely want to have you back. So thank you. Congratulations for everything that you're doing, folks. This is great work. I'm loving the work around the community and interviewing police station, all that stuff. And I'm so sick of turning on the TV and hearing about gun violence. I could scream. And I live in Texas, so y'all already know. It's like, oh my goodness. So thank you so much, Gary, for joining us today. Ted is absolutely positively right. We need to have you back on. Season 4, we are in the process of finalizing all the show topics for our 4th season of HT Pregame for the 2023-2024 season. Woo! It is going to be something beautiful to behold. The guests are confirming and rolling in like crazy, and it is just going to be amazing. I want I want to share in closing some information that I received from Dr. Todd Stahl. He's the founder of Inside Performance Mind Room. And he holds an MD from the University of Nebraska Medical Center. He's a board certified psychiatrist in addiction medicine, as well as general and addiction psychiatry. He's a former high school and college football quarterback at Hastings College, and has spent a number of years working with college student athletes while serving as consulting sports psychiatrist at the University of Nebraska. And he serves as the treasurer for the International Society for Sports Psychiatry. But he said this, he said, you know, at universities, the challenge for any athletics department is to be aware of mental health issues and be trained to spot them when they emerge. Emotional well-being is important to any athlete's success academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. Untreated mental health problems result in undue suffering, diminished positive affect, and balance in life. Most psychiatric disorders in student athletes improve and resolve with proper treatment. Early recognition is important to shorten the time between illness onset and treatment, thus improving the mental health and emotional well-being for our student athletes. Mic drop. That emphasis is on early intervention and proper treatment. It's important to any athlete's success. To all of our listeners, whether you're a parent, a current athlete, a former athlete, or considering being an athlete, if your mental health is not where it needs to be, it is going to compromise your performance. It is going to compromise every aspect of your life. Mental health is the crucial factor in performance in and out of sport. That's all we have for today, folks. We'll see you back. Ronnie will be back next Saturday, rocking and rolling with stories to tell, I'm sure. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Ted, as always, thank you, sir, for rescuing me in my time of need. Mr. Clement, thank you for joining us today, for all the work that you do. And we will definitely be coordinating to get you back on next season, because we want to hear more about what you're doing. Folks, you need to go out and buy his book. You need to do that today. It'll be a great gift for somebody. Indeed. Go out and buy that. Good stuff. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we'll see you back here Memorial Day weekend. Same time, same bad channel. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.